Hello, friends. Hello. We are at the top of the hour now. I'm going to still probably wait another minute for some folks to get started, but feel free. Thank you for joining for the live learning of getting started with Trello for personal productivity. I will be your tour guide for the next hour, and we are going to talk all things Trello. So if you have any questions, I'll be joined by my helpful little assistants. I think we should maybe turn it into a live learning drinking game. Take a drink of coffee every time you see a cat in the background being ridiculous. There's one. Ah, there we go. There's one. There's another. Yeah, so you're going to have ample opportunities. I've got 3 cats in here. This is also the second ever live stream from the camper. And the first one being done with my mobile hotspot because, of course, the campground Wi-Fi is a mess. We had some, it's actually typically pretty good here. I have been here for a week and had 0 problems until last night when we had some really bad storms come through. And it's funny because I don't live very far away, and my house is actually without power right now. So the camper is actually a more stable live stream situation than the house is. So hello, friends. Andy, Stefan. I'm seeing all the chats come in here. I'm still going to gonna wait a few more minutes. I know we have a few more folks coming in, and yeah, it's just it's a big day. It's a big day. What all are we excited for learning about here today while we're getting started? If you have any burning questions that you're like, I really need Brittany to answer this about Trello, while we're here, Mike, hello. Feel free to post in the chat, and I'll make sure we cover it at some point in our journey, if not like right off the bat. But yeah, feel free to share. Yeah, Mike, shout out to Mike. I really like that we're in different time zones right now because when one of us has been working on something in Trello all evening and just can't quite figure it out, we can pass it to the other who solves it overnight, and then you wake up in the morning and it's all solved. So shout out to Mike, who I was really stuck on something, and Mike figured it out before Trello support did. I'll say that. Mike figured it out. And so kudos to Mike. It's going to be, yeah, it's pretty exciting. It was some super advanced automation stuff that, to be honest, unless anybody's super curious, I probably won't get into too much today. But if anybody's curious, I'm happy to explain it. But we're doing some like wild API stuff with Trello, so pretty cool. Greetings from, we've got Germany here. Ed's here. Ed, I had to rescue the barbecue last night in our storm because I was like, we've got to be able to use Ed's rub. Like I can't have my grill blown away before I even get a chance to use the new rub I just got from Team. So yeah. Yeah, Mike says, "What is a collaborator?" That is for sure the question of the hour, and actually something I'm planning to address when we get to our Q&A of stuff. Is that is definitely what people are asking: is what's a collaborator? What's going on with the free plan of Trello? All of these sort of things. So don't worry, we will be discussing collaborators. And yes. Ooh, here we go. From Barcelona, Spain. Spain. There goes the Wi-Fi. Yes. Fingers crossed that there will not go the Wi-Fi. Fingers crossed. All right. Learning more about cats and Trello. We can definitely do that. We will cover the gamut of that. Cats and Trello. We got it all here. All right. Okay. So yeah, we are curious about the automation. So I'll give a sneak peek into it, but basically, we're using Trello automation to get a here. Let me actually bring up the thing itself that has been the bane of the last 12 hours of my life here, but also a beauty. Here, I'll just go ahead and kick off and share screen now. Basically, I'm not going to show the whole thing because it has my API key in it. But basically, I was trying to create an automation that was going to return lists from the return a card from a list. And so when basically you complete an item in a list and you say, I've done this, it marks that as completed. And then it goes and adds the next up label to the next card in the list, technically the second card, not the first card, and then updates it in a checklist item. It was a whole thing. We were having some really, really weird issues with it, but suffice to say, Mike got it working in the end with, yeah, with basically the problem was the response we were getting back was too long, too many characters, so Trello couldn't parse it. So yeah, so we figured it out. So if everybody else's eyes are glazing over right now and you're like, what? Don't worry. That this is like this is future live learning about how to do all that sort of fancy stuff in Trello. We're really just going to keep it simple today. If you've been using Trello already, I bet you'll probably still pick something up, but it's not going to be anything too far over your head. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick things off. We'll getting started with Trello here. My name is Brittany Joyner. If we haven't already met, I am obsessed with Trello. That's really the easiest way to explain me. I have been using Trello for about a decade, and I love building different systems and processes in it. I use it for projects at work. I also use it for projects for fun. And you'll get to see a sample of all those sort of use cases, but I've been using it for, like I said, 10 years. I discovered it when I first started working in a marketing agency when I was in university, and just kind of stuck with me. I joined the Trello community before it was even part of Atlassian. And so that's kind of how I got grandfathered and moved into the Atlassian community. And so, here I am now. And so I'm based in Baton Rouge. I am currently living in my camper, and I have cats, I have dogs. I've written a book about Trello. We'll talk about all of these things, but yeah, this is me in a nutshell. Yes, Lewis, I can try to slow it down a little bit. I get super excited about Trello, and sometimes my passion just takes over. So I'll try to slow it down a bit here. But yeah, for anybody here who has maybe not even heard of Trello before, I'm going to start with what is Trello? And I like to describe Trello as a digital whiteboard with supercharged sticky notes. And what that means is if you've ever had some sort of whiteboard use case where you've got, here's a project I'm working on, and I've got little sticky notes with the things I need to do, and you're picking them up and moving them along to different sections to group them. That can be really handy, right? It's a good way to have an overview of a project you're working on, the tasks and the things you're doing, as well as the different sort of the different dependencies and what needs to go where, and just keeping track of status. So Trello is a digital version of that. And when I say supercharged sticky notes, I mean that you can do some really cool things to these sticky notes. Like, what if your sticky notes could tell you when something is due? Or what if you could add subtasks to your sticky notes? Or what if you could just press a button and see all of the sticky notes that are yours? With Trello, you can do that. So let me dive into a bit more here. Here's some common Trello use cases, right? So there's a million ways people use them. Also, I just realized I forgot to give if you're like, why are there Legos here? This is another way I like to explain Trello is it's like Lego bricks, right? And so that kind of falls into over here with there's a lot of different ways to use it because it's super customizable. And so you could build a Hogwarts castle, or you could build a Millennium Falcon, or all sorts of different things. But sometimes you need a little help setting up those instructions and seeing how it's meant to go. So that is where people like me, a Trello architect, comes in to help you see the imagination of the possible and figure out what you want to use and how to build it. So some of the common use cases, probably the most common, is just a straightforward Kanban board where it's your to-do, doing, done, or you've got some sort of development workflow where it's, building, testing, QA, push to prod, that sort of workflow. And each list is a stage there. A lot of people use it for project management. So again, you can kind of use that same sort of to do, doing, done, or you can have different departments contributing to tasks in a project. It's a good way to have that sort of overview. People use it and get for ticketing. And so there's a lot of folks who are using that for support ticketing, or if like your customer has questions about things, filing that through, if we're handling that bug and where it's at, and have we reported back to the customer and things like that. So people also use it for event planning. And I will show you some personal use cases I've done with that for trips, but you can use it for if you're planning, events like this, virtual events or in-person events. Mike and I actually have Trello boards where we plan, we use a card to plan for different events that we're doing. Like we have an event next Monday where we're going to talk about more of the changes that are coming to Trello. And so we've been planning that in Trello. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it and use it both professionally and personally. And so now I'm going to show you some of my boards. You're going to get a peek behind the curtain, because it's all fun and games when people show, a slide like that, but you want to see what it's actually like in the wild, right? So I'm going to show you some of my boards. So I actually built this board for a trip I took to Dublin last year, a few years ago, I don't know, sometime in here. And you can see that the way I've got it built out is I basically have a list of things I needed to do. I had a list of different activities. I had references with all of my, flights and any sort of confirmations I needed for things like that. I had a list for each day, and this is where I would drag over things from the activities to kind of plan what I was doing when. I would specify which days I was working. If I was staying somewhere in specific, I would list that there. You can see I had due dates 22. Okay, see, wow, that's how long ago I was there. I thought it was last year. Time flies when you're having fun. So this is a really cool way of using Trello for planning trips and stuff. I'm really proud of this one. I use Trello for meal planning. And so this one is really fun because I have built so much automation into this board. Basically, the lists are different types of meals that I could be making, and each card is a recipe. And so I have like the ingredients, I have the link to the recipe, I have a checklist with all of the ingredients. Hang on, I don't know if you can hear the cats playing with the jingle ball, but it's about to annoy the crap out of me, so I need to rescue the jingle ball. And so, yes, we have a list of ingredients here. And sometimes I'll put the instructions up here. Sometimes I'll put them in a separate checklist. I use custom fields to keep track of which meal type they are, so it knows which list to map it back to later. I keep track of when it was last made. Me and my partner can rate it and give it stars based on, how much we liked it. And so that's the gist of it. But what makes it powerful is the automation I've gotten here, where I can tell it to pick a random meal for me, and it's going to randomly pick a meal from a specific list. So it's running, it's thinking about it. But it's going to also, Ed, look, do you see right here? Do you see you are actually on this board? You are a meal this week. We're going to use your barbecue rub and put it on some chicken, actually. And so get excited. But I've got it here in the camper with me. So and so anyways, so you see it now picked out this sort of meal. And what I can do now with automation is I can say, let's say that I want to actually make this meal here. I can click this approve meal button, and it's going to generate a shopping list for me. Notice cards are being added over here for all of my different ingredients. And it'll add like tags for things like dairy and stuff, so I can quickly see and sort it by when I'm at the store and what I need. And then the cool part too is once I have finished making the meal, I can say I made it. Excuse me. I can say I made it, and it's going to move it over to a list at the end here called recent. and that's where it sets that last made date. And it's going to sit over here for like a month before it moves it back into its original list. So that way, when I go to pick another meal, it doesn't like I don't get the same meal every single week. So I'm pretty proud of this board. And yes, Anna, these are templates. This one is easiest to share as I have a blog post and a video I made about it because it's a lot of automation in it. And so unfortunately I can't just like share the exact automation and stuff. But yes, I actually should add a specific template like this to my template board. But I'm going to show, I think I may have it in my, let me find it on my YouTube channel and I'll pull that up for you. Meal planning Trello. I think I come up like, well, no, I actually have to go to my channel, I guess, and find it because never mind, I'm not the most popular. Who knew? I thought only people watched my videos about Trello. I didn't know that other people have videos. Just kidding. But I'm going to post this in the chat here so you can see. I think I may have a description, Anna, about the, I may have a link to a template in there, but if I don't, I'll make sure to update that video description to have one soon. But pretty much like the format of the board is the easy part. It's the automation that's tough. And I have that video shows how to build the different automation that you need to make this happen. So yeah, so that's that. I also have a chore chart. This one's kind of become a bit of a favorite for me lately. This is where I keep track of all of the different things that I need to do. And you can see I'm actually caught up on my chores at the moment, which is really rare because usually there's some like, you know, time to do and things like this. This is actually done. So similar to my my meal planning board, I have various automation for tracking when I've done things and moving cards around. And basically each list is a frequency of a task. So could be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever. And then there's, you know, it basically resets the due date every time I say I've done it to that amount of frequency. It moves it to the bottom of the list. If it starts to become due, it's going to turn yellow. And then when it's actually due, it's going to turn red. So yeah, that's super cool. Fun stuff in there. And then this is another fun one I have, my things to buy. And so this is basically like my giant like add to cart list. And so anytime I find something online that I'm like, ooh, I want to buy this, I try to exercise a little bit of self-control and not buy it right away. And instead I add it to my Trello board. And you can see I have just a massive like dump here of if it's like, I don't know where to put it yet. And then I can go like, you know, resort it later. Like I know that's probably for the camper. That's probably going to go in clothes and I can kind of like drag it around. But you can see I've got different categories here of like things I want to buy for business tools. I like have things for like, yeah, of course, right now I have a million things for the camper and different sort of things. They all have links to the products. And so that's a, you know, super easy way to keep track of that. And so yeah, so those are some core boards for me. This one is my one I live out of on like a daily basis. This is basically like, what is Brittany doing? And this kind of pulls from different tasks of areas of my life that I want to prioritize. And so these are kind of like my goals for the year of things that I want to do. And you can see that I have specific like checklist items and that are actually cards that relate to all of those things. And so I'm using dash cards to keep track of how many cards I started with in there, and keeping track of, you know, different things that I've done. And I can basically see all the ones that I've completed so far this year. And shout out to Trello's collapsed list for making this board look so much cleaner than it used to. So that is basically, that's kind of an overview. I hope that's kind of gotten you excited and helped you feel like, oh, wow, okay, so there are a lot of different ways I can use Trello. And like, yeah, like someone was saying in the chat, like talk about squeezing the juice out of the app. That is my specialty. I love doing that. Mike's on here too. Mike loves doing that. I see so many folks doing it. And honestly, it's what I find so beautiful about Trello is it's so simple, but you can still make it super powerful and do some like really, really, really advanced stuff. So let's talk about it. So I've kind of gone over and shown all of these different sections of the app, but I haven't really talked about what what are all of these like core components? Like, how does all of this come together? You've seen the final picture, but what are the building blocks that make it work? And so Trello is made up of boards, which is made up of lists, which is made up of cards. And then you take all of that, and that's kind of your basic whiteboard and organization and sticky note structure. But then to take it to the next level, that's where you add on power ups and automation. And so we're going to talk about these core components, and then I'll dive into some with power ups. And if we have time, we'll dive into some more automation. But honestly, any one of these could really be their own topic, because there's so much you can do with all of them. So let's start with the core. Top of this is what you need to know about boards. And I want to make this workshop interactive. I know some of you here have used Trello. Some of you have not. So feel free to follow along. I'm going to have some like activities. There's no quiz. But just pay attention and keep this in mind. If you actually are wanting to build with Trello, we'll build something together today. So here's what you first of all need to know about boards. They are that digital whiteboard, right? You can access them from anywhere. You can access them on your phone. You can access them on your browser. You can access them via desktop app. You can even access them offline. I've been known to work with my Trello boards while I'm flying and stuff. So yeah, you can access them anywhere. And that's what makes it a really powerful digital whiteboard. They're typically used for a specific project. So you might have noticed that my boards all had different sort of themes going on, right? It was meal planning, or it was like, things I'm working on for, just like projects at work, or it's like a specific trip. Boards typically will have a specific project, a specific team. They have some sort of central purpose. And you can also control who, it's the way you control who sees what. So for instance, if you have a board and you add people to that board, they can see things inside of that board. And there's different sort of roles you can make. For instance, if you have a premium Trello plan, you can set some people to be observers in the board, which is where they can only view cards and add comments, but they cannot edit or change the content on it necessarily. But for the most part, if someone's in your board, they're going to be working with that content and exploring it. And so it's a good way is to separate your boards is by who needs to see what. So for instance, if you want leadership team to see things that maybe, individual contributors don't need to see, that's where you might want to make it have separate, you might want to put them in separate boards. So that's a way to think through that. And there's different visibility levels on a board where you can say public means anybody can view it. And so you don't even have to have a Trello account. You can just view that. And I'll show you, I actually have a couple public boards I'm going to show you today. You could also make it workspace visible, which means basically anybody on your team can view that board. They can join that board, or you can make it private, which means it's just you and anyone in specific you add to the board. So that is how you can kind of control the access of who sees what. And an important thing to know is that you can only have 10 of those in a free workspace. And so I often, when we get to questions, we'll probably talk a bit more about pricing, because I often get a lot of folks asking, how does Trello pricing work? We'll come back to that and chat about that in a bit. But that is an important thing to know. And I tend to say, try to keep yourself in a board until you outgrow it. There's other reasons that's going to be super helpful, because with one of the other pricing changes in Trello, you can only have 10 collaborators in a free workspace. And a collaborator is basically anyone who's doing something with you in Trello. And so if you want to save money, if you can keep folks in just one board, that's going to save you from having to spend a lot and or need to upgrade too many folks. So keep it simple when it comes to the boards. And so here's an example of how you would create a board. I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to do one together in a second. But basically, once you've got a Trello account and you're logged in, at that top bar, you're going to see a create link, and there's going to be options for setting the title and setting the visibility, like we just talked about, choosing the workspace. You can have multiple workspaces, like one for work and one for personal. Or, just again, you can kind of think of those as different teams. And it's that simple to get started with your board. So I'm going to take a second now. Anybody following along, feel free to join in here. I'll show you step by step how we're going to do this, but it's your turn. Let's create your first board. your 1,000th board. I don't know, Mike. How many boards do you think you've made at this point? Or anybody, feel free to throw out. I know I keep saying Mike, but like I know there's plenty of other Trello enthusiasts here in the house. Like how many boards? That would be a really cool metric if I could see how many boards I've made. But basically, let's say you want to make a board from anywhere in Trello. Once you log in, you're going to see create or this plus button up here. Click that, hit create board, and give it a title. So it could be Brittany testing for workshop, and it'll default to a workspace for you. Or you may be prompted to create one. You can choose. Again, I have a bunch in here. Fun fact, my main workspace is called Personal BC, which is an ode to the days that it used to be called business class. So shout out to all of us who have joined Trello and all of the various pricing changes and plan names and things like that. So then you want to select your visibility. And again, by default, it'll choose workspace. You can make it private or you can make it public. If you choose public, it is going to make you confirm that. And then you can hit create. You can also start with the template. You probably saw that option there. Create board, start with the template, and that's just going to show you some different templates that various people have made in the community. You can see some of them are mine. You can see all sorts of different ones that are popular, and you can start with one of those. It's going to basically import those sort of designs just like that. You can choose to keep the cards or not. We've got Jingle Ball back. All right, Jingle Ball's going to sit over here. Okay, so for those following along, have we created a board? The BC thing. Oh, Mike, there we go. Yes, that's where it came from. It's because I used to have a business class team and a non-business class team. So there was personal and there was personal BC. Also, for anyone joining the drinking game at home, here's a cat. There's a cat. Okay, so I'm going to assume, I'm looking in the chat here. I know there's a bit of a delay here. Luis has created more than 100. Mike has created probably about 10 for himself, for other people, hundreds. I feel that, yeah. BC stood for Brittany School. That's a good one. I could do that. That's, I like that. Okay, well, feel free. I'm going to keep going. But if you do have questions about building a board, let me know, and I'll, happy to address those. So now that we've got a board going, which let me actually keep this up nearby so I can come back to that soon here, because we'll come back to this board. What you need to know about lists. These are the sections within your board. And so, they're called lists. You could think of them as columns. You could think of them as sections. It's basically how you group things in your board. Typically, they're used as stages in a workflow or types of tasks. So it could be that to do, doing, done. If you are a, content creator, it could be like idea, drafting, editing, reviewing. Marge, I just saw the comment. BC, it stands for business class, which is an old term of it's the name of my workspace in Trello, and it's from a old term for one of Trello's pricing plans. So that's where BC comes from. But yeah, lists are so let's say you're a content creator, you may have ideas, drafting, editing, publishing, promoting, those different stages. You could use it for all sorts of things. Again, this is kind of where it comes down to, like, it's like Legos. You could make whatever you want with it. And I've seen people do some really interesting things with lists. You could also sort cards in a list. So that's a super helpful way of being able to bulk make changes, which kind of goes into the other point I want to make here, is being able to organize things and make bulk changes to cards. So for instance, if you're trying to move a series of cards, there are list actions that let you do that. If you want to copy all of those cards, rather than having to do each one, you can copy all of the cards in a list. You can also archive all of the cards in a list. So it's a good way of kind of grouping your cards and being able to sort them by whether it's due date or alphabetically or by custom fields or by labels. You'll need to use automation sometimes for those things, but that's the easiest way to do it is via cards in a list. So yeah, Lewis, like stages, customer experience is a good one. Like there's different things you could do with like sales pipelines and a funnel of like a journey people may go through. So absolutely true. So now it's your turn. You're going to create a list. So hop over to this board we just created, and hopefully this is super intuitive. Trello tries to make it very clear for you and says, add a list. Just click that. And let's just add a to-do. Actually, wait, I've got a list of tasks for us here. Let's see. Here's your tasks, okay? I'll do them with you. Create a to-do list, create a done list, create a doing list, and then drag the doing list in between the to-do and done, because you can drag list around. So this is pretty cool, all right? So we're gonna do this together. So I just made a to-do list. Let's make a done list. Just type the name and hit enter. Type the name and hit enter. And now, because obviously I want doing to go before, I'm gonna drag it, and it's that simple. You can move it around, hit X over there to clean that out, and boom, we've done it. Any questions about making lists, or anybody need any help with that? I'll pause for a second. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but again, feel free to ask questions about lists and boards. Only lists and boards, no other questions. Just kidding, you can ask about anything. So now we're moving into the final component of what makes Trello really special, right? And it is the cards. It's those supercharged sticky notes. You can drag these around just like you can lists. And so it's very satisfying to take a card and drag it to done, drag it to, you know, other list, or resort it, organize it. You can drag it up and down within a list. You can move it around, and that's really, really nice. I don't know many tools that let you do fun stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. The supercharged sticky note aspect is because you can add all sorts of things to cards. And so I'll show you when we go through some of the tasks on here, but you can add members, which is great for seeing which cards relate to you or your teammates. You can add labels, which is, again, a good way of sort of categorizing and sorting your cards even within their lists. You can add dates, and this is really helpful combined with Trello views, where you can view them on a calendar. But even if you're not using Trello views, it's still nice because you'll get notifications about it, and you can still do a lot of automation to sort your cards. So for instance, when a card is due, it can move it in your to-do list, things like that. And if there's any fields that you don't want, you can add them with custom fields. And so this is a standard feature, a standard plan feature, but there's Powerups that can help you with that. If you don't necessarily need to use it for automation or things, you may not need custom fields. You may be able to use a Powerup called Amazing Fields. So there's different options there. And other things you can do on cards, it's not just about like organizing the data of like, you know, text and members and dates and things. You can also attach files, which can be really helpful if you're, I'm going back to my creator analogy. A lot of us will have people who are, you know, we'll have maybe something in Confluence. Rodney's going to have something in Jira. You know, there's going to be different things you may need to piece together. There may be different files of thumbnails and different assets. There may be video files, different sort of things you want to add there. You can totally bring all of that in and keep it all in your card. You can also add locations. So that's really cool. With my doublet board, actually, I'll show this view when we get to board views, but you can actually add location fields to a card and then plot them all on a map. And that was super, super helpful when I was planning my trip to Dublin, because I could visualize what was near each other and then plan it on according to date based on that. So that's super cool. You can also view activities, so you can see who's done what in a card, who checked off this, when this was checked off, and you know when this was changed and moved to another list. And you can add comments, so it's easy to say, you know, keep a thread going and a conversation focused around a whole product there. So I just saw this question: are there permissions to who can create lists? So not really, because anybody who is in a board and it can create a list. So basically, let's say you've added me to your board. I'm a member. I can create lists. I can create cards. I can do things. If you are on a premium plan, part of like your board is part of a premium workspace, then you can add someone to your board as an observer. and they will not be able to create lists or cards. They can only view cards and then comment on them, but they cannot like move them around or things like that. So that is, super super useful if you're like, I want some control, but I want them to still be able to engage in the board. But for the most part, if someone is added to the board, they can create lists and do things. Oh my gosh, Lewis would like to hear my opinions on Trello versus Jira. Hey, you know what? I can give them now. I think they're both great tools. This was probably the #1 question I was asked while I was at team, and I spent a bunch of time at the Trello booth. And everybody says Trello or Jira, and I'm like, it's up to you. If you're already using Jira, I'm not going to try to convince you to use Trello. They're useful for kind of different things. But if you're using Jira, or you're too intimidated to use Jira, or people are like not actually using it because they're like looking at it with like deer in the headlights and they're just like, there's too much going on. Maybe you want to try Trello because it is, in my opinion, an extremely simpler UI, which a lot of people take to mean not as powerful. I don't think that's entirely true. I haven't stretched the limits of Jira as I have with Trello, but as you can see, Trello itself is pretty powerful. So I mean, if you're using Jira already, I'm not going to convince you to come to Trello, but if you're looking for something lighter, then you can use Trello, and it's easier to get started with. It's easier to like make a prototype and just kind of like throw some content and organize it. Yeah, exactly. I like what C said. Why choose Trello for personal work to-dos and home stuff, Jira for work? That's absolutely valid, and I think a great direction a lot of people go to. It's like, and I know a lot of companies that even for work, like their marketing teams will use Trello, but their dev teams will use Jira. So they might be operating in like multiple spaces. So totally agree. And yes, I love that. See, you're going to be using this for your trip for Iceland. So super excited. Let me know how that goes. We've got another question here. I'm creating a board that is part of my membership program, so I set it up as an observer or a member. So this is an interesting one, Tamara. I will show you a hack that I prefer to do for something like that because Trello is not great to use. I would know because I'm trying to with my premium subscribers. So basically my membership program, they get access to specific templates. But there's not really a great way to do that because I mean, you could add someone as an observer, but if you're going to have to pay for each member. And so it's not a great place for like publicly hosting information. So like you'd have to pay for each observer there in your board. And so let's say, for my 10 premium subscribers, if I wanted to have a gated board where they were just observers, I'd need to pay for each of them to be part of that workspace. And that's honestly, like in some cases that makes sense. It doesn't make sense for me because that paying for them to use Trello would be just about how much I make from them to use from the premium subscription fees. So what I actually prefer to do is let me see here. I'll show you over here on this board. I actually have a list that is of my premium templates, and I use the external share power up for Trello. And let me see which one it is. Yeah, so this is a power up that you can use, and it's going to let you set criteria. So you can say, here's a specific link for people to view a specific section. And I can say like, oh, this is, view cards in this list or cards with this specific tag or, whatever. And then it's going to basically create a list in there or a specific link that I can send to them for them to view. So it's kind of a way around that where you don't have to like pay for them as observers. So I hope that helps. But yeah, so that's basically what we're talking about, cards. And so now let's jump into it and actually create some cards together. So here are your tasks. I'm going to change the layout a bit so you can actually see what those tasks are. But yeah, we're going to go through them together, but we're going to create a card in this board we've made and assign ourselves and add a label. So let's do that first. So in the doing list, I'm going to make a card. Just click there where it says add a card. I'm going to say host Trello live learning workshop. And what else did I say I was going to do to it? Assign myself and add a label. Quick shortcut, if you're hovering over a card and press the space bar, it'll assign you to it. So that's pretty cool. Also, we need to add a label. So while we're inside this card here, we can click labels. And you can add text to this. So you could say in progress, or it's kind of redundant because that's the list name, but you know, you could say education, you can change the color of it, do whatever you want there and click it and it's going to apply it. And again, I showed you how to add a member with the spacebar, but I should probably show you. You could also click members and add other people here too. All right. Any questions about that one? Okay, on to the next. Now we will create a card called Make a Board and drag it to the done list because we've already done that. So we will say Make a Board. And now watch, just like I did with list, I can drag this around wherever. And I can put it there and make a board. Done. All right. Create another card with something you need to do next week and add a date to it. All right, let's do this. So something I need to do. I'm going to add this to do. Let's see. I said next week, but let's see. What is next week? I'm going to need to pick up my sister from the airport because she's coming to visit. All right. So create a card like that, open it up, and to add a date, we just click dates, and she comes in on Thursday. So I'm going to add that due date there. Notice you can add reminders. So I could say, give me the time, give me 5 minutes before. I'm going to leave it off. You could also add a start date. So if it was like multiple days, you could do that. But I'm just going to stick with due date, hit save, and then close out of the card. And now I can see I've got a due date there. Let's see what else we got. Add a description to a card. Use Markdown or the text formatting to make a headline and bullet points. Ooh, this is fun. So I'm just going to, I'll add demonstrate Trello card descriptions. And now I'm going to open up this card, and this description field, it's kind of, think of it as like, if it's not a conversation, you may want to put content here. So I'm going to make a heading. So if you know Markdown, you can use Markdown with just like those two number signs, or you could do, you know, any of these options, right? You can select from this drag down to create create heading 2. Here's a heading. Click that to make a bullet list, item 1, item 2, and you can do all sorts of stuff with this. You can also, if you need help writing something, you can use Atlassian Intelligence. So you can say, come up with a project plan for how to get started with Trello. You can hit enter. Let's see. Did it do it? There we go. Is it? No. There we go. Okay, sorry. Okay, well, that actually didn't work really well. Here's a heading. I don't know where. Let's see. Let's try if I have nothing there. Let's see. Write with AI. Write a project plan for using Trello. No, they want a project plan for using Trello. Well, fine. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. As with any AI, sometimes you have to play with it a bit, but here we go. And now I can just hit insert, and it's going to add that in there. I can hit save. So yeah, okay. So that's our descriptions here. Okay. Any other questions as folks are going through with the card stuff? I don't want to rush folks too much if we're going through all that and we've got that, but yeah, everybody feeling good. I see some crystal clears here. Cool. We've got a cat behind me. Oh, 2 in the window. So time for a shot of coffee. Be kind to your AI. Lewis is asking, how can I put the estimated effort in the card? So a couple different ways you can do that. There's Powerups for that, which we'll actually move on to talk about here in a second. And I'll show you how to find different Powerups, but you could also just create a custom field. So if you go to these 3 dots, go to custom fields, new field, you can say estimated effort, and you can make it text or a number. And you can choose if you want to show it on the front of the card or not. Hit create, and now every card is going to have that. So let's say this, I can go down to custom fields. Let's say I think it's going to be a 2. Now I can see estimated effort is 2, and I can see that inside the card as well. And you can see who has updated it and when. So that's one way to do that. Rodney, let's see. Can you add? Can you add any custom fields to cards? Yes. So that's basically what I just did, showing, with Lewis's example about the estimated effort in a card. That's exactly what I did. There are a lot of different options for that. You could make a drop down type, you could make a number, you can make a date, you can make a checkbox. There's lots of different options there. If you want more styling options, you should check out a power up called Amazing Fields. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. And you can actually connect it to custom fields, which you may want to do if you're wanting nice looking fields, but you also want to style, like you also want them to work for automation. So yeah, Amazing Fields is a good one to check out for that. I see need more cats. Trello taught by cats. That's an idea. That is an idea, actually. I mean, yeah, I'll work on it. Maybe we can do a series of workshops of, each one of my cats is like my assistant for the workshop. And yeah, Mike, I also, to be fair, I like use AI. Like I go to ChatGPT when I, for the most part, when I use AI. Like it's nothing against Trello in specific, but I also forget to use it in Trello half the time. Cats do love Trello. That is a fact. That is facts. Okay, cool. So back to our board over here, or our slides here. So one other thing I want to talk about is board views in Trello. This is only available for premium plans. And so make this a little easier to read here. It's only available for premium plans, which we'll get to more about Trello pricing. Actually, maybe I'll just take a quick detour here. There's different plans for Trello pricing. Free plan, you can have 10 boards per workspace. You're limited to 10 collaborators. We'll probably talk more about that at some point. But as I mentioned, that's pretty much anybody part of your boards. And you then if you want to, pay, you can get the standard plan. I actually really recommend it. Join me and Mike on Monday. We're going to be talking more about some of these changes coming to Trello and why it's not a bad thing if you want to pay for Trello and why it might actually be valuable. So I'm not going to turn this into a whole sales pitch right now, but if you're like, should I pay for Trello or should I not? Come on Monday and we'll dive into all sorts of things about it. But you get a lot for $5 a month, basically. Unlimited boards, those advanced checklists, which we didn't even really do anything with that in these cards, but basically you can add these checklists with different items and it's like subtasks and you can assign dates to them and members. And Mike and I can attest it's almost useful in automation, almost, but it still leaves a bit to desired if you have a lot you want to automate there. But they're still really cool and useful even aside from that. You get more storage, you get more automation, and you can add people as guests to like just one board and then you don't have to pay for them. Again, something Mike and I will talk more about on Monday. But the nice part about premium, for most of it, I think people probably don't care all that much. Some of these are helpful. This is the observer's role that I was telling you about. But the really cool part is these views, right? And so that's where, I'm talking about being able to view your cards on a calendar. And so that's great for me. Actually just zoom into these screenshots here. That's great for being able to see your cards based on a calendar view, or you can use timeline if you want to see it by dates and by list or by members. So that's pretty nice. If you miss spreadsheets, there's table view. That's, I can easily show you that in this board here too, where we have boards, table view. See, looks just like a spreadsheet almost for those who missed that. And then map view. This one is super helpful because as you can see, like on my Dublin trip, I was able to plot my cards as different items on a map. And so it was really helpful to see what is near, what is happening, and how to kind of group all of that together. So really like that. Yeah. Let's see. Let me check on the chat here. I just want to add people to my Trello for viewing the boards. Is it free? If you just want people to view your boards, Lewis, I would just make your board public because then you don't even have to add anybody to the board and they can view it. And it's basically like view only by the link because it's going to generate such a specific link that someone wouldn't happen on it unless you sent the link. So if you just want people to view your content in Trello, just make boards public and you won't As long as you have less than 10 of them in a workspace, you won't need to pay for Trello. Rodney says, if you find it useful and you are able to pay for it, it's the best way to make sure it sticks around. I completely agree. I could go on a whole thing about this. I think about how much I pay for things like Starbucks and how, there's lots of things. I know not everybody can, and it can get expensive if you have a lot of teams and stuff, but especially if you're just using it for yourself, it's not all that expensive. And if you find it useful, it's pretty valuable. Like, it saves me a lot of time. So that's super helpful. And yeah, Bonum Business Solutions is asking what me and Mike are doing on Monday. Mike, you want to post a link in the chat? I don't know if YouTube will let you post a link in the chat or not. If you can send it to me on Slack, I think you actually did. But if you can send it to me on Slack quickly, oh, here it is. I'll post it. I see it right here. Okay, this is what we are doing. Please come join. It'll be another live stream. We're going to talk about the deadlines of May 20th, the changes in Trello. So come join us for that. All right. Before I open it up for any other questions and stuff, I want to talk about the next best thing you can do for your Trello boards, and that is Powerups. So once you've got this basic lay of the land, you might be ready to add some more things to it. Powerups is the best way to go. I made a Trello board of some of my favorite Powerups, and let me get rid of some of these tabs over here. And because I didn't want you all to have to squint on the screen to type that URL, I bought the domain besttrellopowerups.com. So if you open a tab and go to besttrellopowerups.com, it's going to redirect you back to this board with all of my recommended and favorite Powerups. And so, fun tip, while making this board, I discovered a bug. If you click on this, just normally, it's not going to take you anywhere. And so Trello Engineering is working on that. But if you hold down Command or Control on your keyboard while you click it, it'll open it up in a new tab, and then you can go to the directory and add it to your boards. So that's a good way to use this board, but feel free to use this. I'm not going to go through every single one in here. That's kind of what their directories are for, but also happy to dive into any specific ones of these if you have any questions. But I've built this out by, this first list is ones that are built by Trello. If you're using Slack, I definitely recommend connecting Trello and Slack. List limits is a nice way to keep a counter of how many cards are in different lists. README is really nice. It basically lets you create a pop-up that appears either the first time or every time you can set it. Someone comes to the board that explains how it works. Voting Powerup is really nice for features and things like that. Dash cards, it's a really light way of reporting. You probably saw me using that on the board where it said how many cards I have in this list. Super quick way of counting that. And you can say how many cards are due this week, how many cards are assigned to me and due this week, things like that. Here's some other ones for like general use that I would say are probably true across, most of you would find these useful no matter what your use case is. Amazing Fields, that's the one I've mentioned quite a bit already. And like I said, it gives you different ways of styling your fields so you can make them look a lot nicer than the default options Trello gives you. You can even do some like conditional stuff where it like changes the way they look based on what they are. Some calculations. So you could say this field times this field equals this field. Lots of cool stuff you can do with that. This is a really, really awesome Powerup and has an extremely generous free plan. So definitely check that out. Bulk actions. If you need to quickly change a bunch of things in a Trello card, or if you need to, or multiple cards, I should say, across a board, that's a great Powerup for that. Syncing cards, everybody, that's probably the number one thing I get asked after pricing and after Jira versus Trello is, how do I sync Trello with other tools or with other like cards within other boards? There's various ways you can build automation for it, but Unito is like the go-to Powerup for syncing Trello with Jira or GitHub or, Monday.com or whatever other tools you need to, or even other boards. So if you want one board, but your team has another board, but you want to make a change in your board that reflects on that board, Unito is the way to go for that. Forms, that's another cool Powerup where you can create a publicly hosted form and submissions to that become Trello cards. External share, I already showed you that one. That was where you can specify like, I want this board to be private, but only share this specific card, things like that. And then I have another list for like situationally where it's like, depending on what you're doing, if you're handling like emails in Trello, for instance, like if you're a support team and you get a lot of emails and you want to be able to manage tasks with that, you can use email for Trello by Sunboard. Super great power up. If you're managing contacts in Trello, Crumble for Trello is a good one too. Hipporello lets you kind of build your own sort of UI on top of a Trello board. So imagine doing your work in Trello, but having some sort of external facing version of that for other people to see. Hipporello is great for that. One I've recently started getting into is colorful budgets. And so if you want to handle budgeting or anything like that in Trello, that one's great for that. And then I've got some reporting ones in here. Again, I mentioned dash cards again, reports by Blue Cat. That's probably my favorite, like super lightweight, but still powerful way to quickly get stats about, you know, how long cards have been in different places, how they're moving through your workflows, how many have been done, you know, what's being weighted on, etc. Dashboards by Placker. Placker's also got a lot of like cool tools and like project management and capacity planning stuff to go with it. And then Screenful as well has some different visualizations and different sort of stuff to help you visualize your workflows and your reporting. So again, I will post this link of best Trello power-ups. I'll post it here in the chat. Feel free to go on there and check that out. And then, yeah, I'm actually going to skip this for right now. I was going to say your turn at a power up, but we're coming up on time and I want to get into our questions. So, nope, this didn't update. I updated these slides and moved them to the end here. We're going to skip through automations because I want you to come back for part 2 where we're going to deep dive into automations because they deserve a lot more than 4 minutes. So, yeah. So, all right, hit me, folks. What are the questions we have here? Is there anything, I know we've been asking as we've been going along, but is there anything else that, let's see. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm seeing a bunch here. Let's see. I'll be there. Along with Trello. I pay for Trello personally. Is it possible to link my work Slack account or is it by email? Yeah, you can. Basically, because I kind of do the same thing. Like I have Trello on my own. What you would do is you would just go to a board and add that power up, and it's going to. I actually should just make a YouTube video about this because I have a client who's asking me about different ways to use that power up too. So this is a good reminder for me to like actually make that and just put it on my channel. But you'll add the power up, and then you can connect it to any Slack account that you have access to. So as long as you have access to your work Slack account, that should be fine. Let's see. What is one power up you would recommend to everyone using Trello? Probably bulk actions, just because there's a lot, like, it's one of those, I don't use it every day, but it's so handy when I use it. And there's just a lot of times when you're like, I need to quickly unassign this person from all these cards, or we added a new person to our team and I want to assign someone to a bunch of cards, or you know, I'm working on this and the final date shifted by 10 days. So now I need to shift 20 cards by 10 days as well. And so I recommend probably bulk actions for that. But yeah, I think that's a good question there. Is a taco a sandwich? I feel like that came up last week at team and I don't remember what I answered for it. I don't have strong opinions on this one, so I'm happy for anyone who does have strong opinions to share them. I think tacos are excellent and sandwiches are excellent, so maybe. Yeah, Mike's talking about dash cards. That's definitely a great one. Let's see. Yes, Alex is here. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm enjoying this live learning. Let's see, burn down. Oh, I think I saw Mike mentioned it. Screenful has burned down. There's 2 or 3 others. So this is where I encourage you to go to the power up directory. So if you're like, I want to look for power ups, click this rocket icon on any Trello board and hit add power ups. And it's going to take you to the directory and you can search for whatever you're looking for. So see, there's all sorts of, you know, burn down stuff you can do. So definitely play around with those. You can go to their listings and learn a little bit more about how they work, what they do, what they charge, etc. Automation does require time. It does. I will say, Mike and I can attest to that. That is what we spend a lot of time doing. But it's so powerful once you figure it out and set it up. Other resources have on YouTube and other socials. So I mean, without getting too far ahead of it, I have various resources for you all. So I have a newsletter. If you go to trello.substack.com, it will take you right here to my newsletter. You can subscribe. I have premium subscribers, but I also have free subscribers that get a newsletter every week with all sorts of different updates and tips and tricks for all things in Trello. I let people submit questions, much like we've done throughout this webinar, where you can ask a question and I will answer it, kind of like Dear Abby style. I share news coming up. I share tips, featured power-ups, and I give automation tips with specific, like how to set up the automation for my premium subscribers. So I also give like use case ideas and things like that. On my YouTube channel, I have lots of content about how to do XYZ in Trello, or inspiration of use cases, or how I built automation to let me sync cards and checklist items and things like that. So definitely check that out. Follow me on LinkedIn. I've started trying to post more content on there, and I share some tips and tricks and things over there as well. So that's a pretty great resource if you're wanting some regular Trello in your feed. And also get my book. You can go to trellobook.com. I also bought that domain, and it will redirect you to the Amazon link for my Trello book. This is like everything we talked about today, but like much more specific details, how to walk through hand-holding of how to do all of those things. So yeah, so definitely recommend checking that out. I would love to sign a copy if I can be near you or see you in person. I travel a lot, so there's a good chance we'll run into each other. Trello pet peeve from Rodney. This is a good question. I think my Trello pet peeve is probably at the moment that you can't automate more with checklist items. Like, they're really nice and they look pretty, but you just can't automate perfectly with them. A little limited. So working on that. Yeah, when is part 2? Great question, Anna. Did Andrew put you up to asking this, or yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this. I had a blast. I definitely want to do some more of these. So feel free to like post in the chat if there's specific topics you'd like to see me talk about Trello. And I may, do versions of this, but also I'd love to do one that dives deeper into automation. I could do one diving into more specific power-ups, and instead of just giving you the quick overview, actually diving into how to use them and set them up. Yeah, I'd totally be curious to hear what you're all interested in, but I would definitely love to do these again. And Andy is correct. The mini part 2 is coming on Monday at 11:30 EST. I posted the link, and I'll post it one more time in here if you're like, I want to see Brittany on Zoom again from the trailer. I just posted the link again. Go sign up there. It'll be another live stream, me and Mike nerding out about all things Trello. And thank you, Stefan. Newsletter is 100% worth subscribing. I appreciate that. Link to the newsletter, I'll just put that right here. And let's see. Automation is Trello's secret weapon, and we definitely want to share this power with as many people as possible. That is absolutely correct. Yes, automation. When is Brittany going to be on the Jira or Trello Live Night? Now, that's a good question. That is a good question. We need to get some more time in the books. I was on it last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever team was. It's a blur. But yeah, we need to schedule another one. Maybe talk some more about the changes with Jira Work Life Management and how that supersedes into Trello. And let's see, so many comments. I love this. This is amazing. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm rushing. I just really want to get to everybody's here. Go, Brittany. How many more live sessions towards Trello are coming up this year? This was our pilot. This is the very first one. So you're the beta audience here. I think I want to do more. So I'll talk to Andrew about it and see about some more coming up. But the year is still young. We're just in May. So I'd say we'll have some more of those coming through here. And then, yeah. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah. Have fun at the Spanish Trello event. I think I know the one you're talking about with Alicia and Crumble. I think that is happening today. So And yeah, thank you, Marge. I appreciate it. Thank you all for joining. Yeah, if you all know how to reach me, I'll still be around here for in the chat for a second, but you all know how to reach me via all of these things. Feel free to reach out, ask questions. We'll do another one of these soon. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This is really fun. Thank you, Cats, for not causing too much chaos, and Wi-Fi gods for kind of working. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and yeah, I look forward to talking Trello to you more soon. Yeah, yeah. If somebody has the link to the Spanish Trello event, feel free to share it. I don't actually have it off the top of my head. If anybody does have it, feel free to post it in the chat. Um yes, thank you, Andy, for joining. My number one fan, my Atlassian brother. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find the link for this yeah, I don't think I have the link handy, so yeah, thank you all. All right, I'm going to log off now, but you know how to reach me, and we'll be in touch. Thank you all.